Welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian Kingsbury. Today we're going to do another Brian Reads the News segment. This one's coming to us from gqmagazine.co.uk. It's called 15 Facts to Know About James Brown. It has been 50 years since Get Up, I Feel Like a Sex Machine was recorded. Here's everything you wanted to know about the legendary soul singer. This was written by Chris Sullivan, published April 25th, 2020. You could bet your bottom dollar that for decades there hasn't been one moment when someone somewhere in the world wasn't tapping a toe to a James Brown groove, be it an original recording or one of the many tunes that sampled his work. Indeed, his Funky Drummer, the most sampled cut of all time, was released 50 years ago on 27 March 1970, while the monumental Get Up, I Feel Like Being a Sex Machine was recorded on 25th April 1970 at Star Day King Studio in Cincinnati. The tune that changed the face of music forever, Sex Machine, so familiar to teenagers, octogenarians, and everyone in between, has to be the most played dance record in history, one that all has danced to. Subsequently, James Brown and his baby funk has, whether it's hip-hop, jazz funk, drum and bass, or grime, influenced dance floors for at least 50 years and counting, and love him or hate him, it is still totally impossible to consider a world without Mr. James Brown. Fact number 1, having been sampled more than 5,200 times, James Brown is the most sampled artist of all time, while Funky Drummer and its beat, created by Clyde Stubblefield, has been sampled some 1,584 times by, among others, Sweet Tea, Jazzy Joyce, Public Enemy, Run DMC, Ice-T, De La Soul, Jay-Z, Kanye West, Dr. Dre, George Michael, Madonna, and Britney Spears, among others. Fact number 2, he was born James Joseph Brown in either 1933 or 1928 in the pine forest of Barnwell, South Carolina, in a lean wooden shack devoid of winters, water, toilet, electricity, gas, or running water. An only child, he had no shoes, wore rags, and had no neighbors for 10 miles around. His mother left when he was 4 after his alcoholic, physically abusive father tried to kill her. From an early age, Brown spent most of his time alone, his father away working the turpentine camps, while common-law wives didn't stay for long to look after young James. Quote, being alone at night in that cabin in the woods with nobody else there worked a change in me that has stayed with me from then on, he wrote in his autobiography. It gave me my own mind. Fact number 3, aged 8, he moved into his Aunt Honey, real name Handsome Washington, brothel in Augusta, Georgia, where he perfected his buck dance, a solo gamble native to North Carolina, not unlike tap, to entertain the troops and guide them in to the knocking shop. Here, in order to further regale the servicemen and earn a few coins, he learned the piano, guitar, and harmonica, while his call and answer shtick was picked up from barnstorming preachers in the local churches that Brown was off to frequent. Fact number 4, young James was arrested aged 15 for robbery, tried as an adult, and received an 8 to 16 year sentence in the Georgia Juvenile Training Institute in Toka, Georgia, where he started a gospel group. Bobby Bird and his family's gospel choir visited the facility to entertain the young offenders, met James, and having assured the authorities that they would give the young delinquent a home, he was released into their care. He'd served 3 long years. He then joined Bird's band, the Gospel Starlighters, and in 1954, a wild young piano player named Little Richard allowed them to play support for them in Toccoa, and thus forever influenced the young tearaway. Fact number 5, in 1965, after he'd secured million-selling hits with Night Train and his phenomenal Live at the Apollo long player, the ever-assured, ever-audacious Brown ditched conventional verse and chorus structure and eliminated chord progressions. It was now purely about the groove, and every instrument was treated like a drum, and every riff syncopated. Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, recorded in less than an hour in February of 1965, changed the face of music forever. Quote, "They said it was the beginning of funk," he uttered. "I thought it was where my music was going. The title told it all. I have a new bag." Fact number 6. The day after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, Brown on 5 April 1968, during a televised concert in Boston, appealed to the audience for calm and stopped a riot in the city. In June, he played live in front of armed forces on the front line in Vietnam. In August, he released Say It Loud on Black and I'm Proud, which became an anthem, and he subsequently set up an educational program entitled Don't Be a Dropout for disenfranchised black youth. He then named himself Soul Brother Number 1. Fact number 7. Having supported the Democratic Vice President Hubert Humphrey in 1968, he switched sides and supported Richard Nixon the following year. This caused so much consternation among his fans and black community, as Nixon symbolized everything the Godfather had campaigned against. By all accounts, he did this because that year the IRS claimed that Brown, who always insisted on being paid in cash and rarely paid tax, owed them $6.5 million, and he wrongly believed that Nixon would come to his rescue. Consequently, the IRS took his jet, his radio stations, which hadn't paid a cent of royalties, his James Brown's gold platter fast food chain, his cars, and tried to get his house. Fact number 8. Brown, age 37, sacked his backing band in March of 1970 after they complained about his system of fining anyone who played a bum note. In their place, he pulled in a young Cincinnati act, the Pace Setters, led by brother Catfish and Bootsy Collins, aged 27 and 19 respectively, and renamed them the JBs. Their first recording was Get Up, I Feel Like Being a Sex Machine, while their first LP, Sex Machine, is cited as one of the greatest and most important soul records of all time. Fact number 9. In 1971, Soul Brother Number 1 launched his People Records label and, for 5 years, produced and released some of the finest dance tunes ever committed to tape. These milestones cut such as Think About You by Lynn Collins, I Know You Got Soul by Bobby Bird, Maceo and the T-Max, Cross the Track, Soul Power 74 and Same Beat, and Gimme Some More by Fred Wesley and the JBs became the backbone for hip-hop and, to this day, continue to rock any dance floor. Fact number 10. His career took a dive due to the disco phenomenon in the late 1970s. He was rediscovered after he met John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd in Studio 54 in 1979, and they asked him to play Reverend Cleophas James in the 1980 movie The Blues Brothers. Fact number 11. By the mid-1980s, his music was everywhere all over again. His original vinyl recordings were selling for huge amounts, and he was earning millions from the myriad hits records that sampled his work. Quote, "There'd be no hip-hop without James Brown," clarified Chuck D of Public Enemy. Fact number 12. In 1984, he married Adrienne Alois Rodriguez and took to smoking PCP, which, also known as angel dust, is a mind-bending hallucinogenic that causes acute anxiety, paranoia, and violent hostility. By 1988, he had called 911 to report domestic violence some 11 times, by which time he was arrested 3 times and charged with assault and intent to kill, possession of PCP, resisting arrest, and illegal possession of a pistol. Meanwhile, she stabbed a woman with scissors with whom she thought James was having an affair, and a month later was arrested for setting Mr. Brown's clothes on fire in a hotel room and possessing 7 ounces of PCP. Fact number 13. After walking into a business office in Augusta on 24 September 1988, Brown, aged 55 and under the influence, believing that someone had used his private water closet without his permission, burst into an insurance seminar next door and, waving his pump-action shotgun, demanded to know just who the dastardly culprit was. When the police arrived, quote, the funkiest man alive sitting in his red and white Ford pickup did a screeching U-turn and sped off. Officers pursued him across 2 states, and it was only when they shot out his tires, riddled his car with 23 bullets, and formed a human line in the road that he stopped. According to a Georgia Highway Patrol officer, when he got out of the car, he sang the song Georgia and did the good foot dance. He was consequently sentenced to 6 years in prison for trying to run over 2 police officers, but was paroled in 1991 after serving only 2.5. Quote, it was so terrible, he later stated. I needed the rest bad. He now acquired a new moniker, his bad self. Fact number 14. 2 years after Adrian, after attempting to recover from liposuction by imbibing a rich mix of Demerol, Vicodin, Valium, morphine, and PCP, died of a heart attack, Brown walked into his lawn naked and shot a .22 caliber handgun and a .30 caliber rifle in the air and was put in a mental facility and observed. 2 years later, he was accused of chasing a young electric company repairman who'd called to look into a complaint regarding Brown's overhead lighting down the street with a big steak knife. Finally, fact number 15. Even though he died on Christmas Day 2006, the wrangling continues regarding his estate. A judge ordered a DNA test which confirmed that Brown was indeed James Jr.'s father, but they had to cut his legs off to get to his bone marrow for a sample. The battle over his estimated $100 million estate between the mothers of his children, at least 6 and up to as many as 9, 16 grandchildren and many mistresses, a former manager, 30 lawyers, and a long-serving valet still continues to this day in the South Carolina Supreme Court. Alright, there you have it, another successful Brian Reads the News segment. Again, 15 facts about James Brown coming to us from gqmagazine.co.uk if you want to check that out yourself with all the information and all the photos. And if you enjoyed the videos about the celebrities like that, information about celebs and musicians, be sure to go to my channel and subscribe. Here's a quick look at my channel. It's just my name, Brian Kingsbury. We're currently sitting at 1.12 thousand subscribers with 4.6 thousand videos on the channel, so there's plenty for you to watch. Go on up there, hit that subscription button, and ring the notification bell. When you ring the bell, you'll be notified every time a new video drops. That way you don't miss out on any. Do me a big favor, give this one a big thumbs up on your way out. Hit that thumbs up button. It'll help get it in front of a few more eyes. Help to grow the channel. I greatly appreciate that. Thanks again for watching this one to the very end. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.